All right, here we are, episode 11, the Once.
Please like and share as appropriate. We
Yeah.
always appreciate your company.
You know, the only people that watch this are the three of us, so
Well,
I'm not sure who you're talking to.
Tom
I'm going to share it
remind-
with you,
I
and you're going to
forgot
share it
last
with me, and we'll both send it to Booger.
Yeah.
My mailing
Well,
list for this episode is 3 people, and one of them is me.
Well, Crypto watches. You know, he cocks his head, but you know he watches.
Nah, I think so. I sent an email to that gentleman. He's a friend of a friend of a friend, kind of. Actually, just a friend of a friend. The guy that I was talking about bringing on referred me to him, and he spoke with him and said he was really good to go with it and all, and gave
Right
me.
on.
So I've sent him an email, but he was busy over the weekend. I don't know when I'll hear from him. Hopefully, it won't be too long. We can set that up.
Nice.
All right.
Because he's a best-selling author on cryptozoology and the search for bipedal hominids.
There you go, getting all fancy again.
Uneducated would call it big feet.
And he graduated from public school, people.
Animal would say my kinfolk.
Yeah, right.
Right. He's not inaccurate on that.
I saw that shirt that he posted, and I was like, "Fuck you!" Now find it in a 4X.
Yeah,
I know. I've seen your feet. He's not inaccurate.
Yeah. I wear a 14 double E.
Oh Jesus! Your poor
Like
mom.
when I go to the boot store and I find a pair of boots I like, I buy 2 or 3 pair because I don't think I'll never find them again. 2 years when I go to look for another pair of boots, I won't find them. You know what I mean?
I'm surprised you go to a store. I mean, just
it's frustrating. Usually, like boot stores, I have pretty good luck with boot stores. But what I inevitably do when I walk in is they'll say, "Well, can I show you a pair of boots?" And I always say 14 double E. What you got? And they'll say, "Ooh." They'll come out and they'll be like, "I got these 2 pair," and I'll be like, "All right, now I'll take one of these 2." You know what I mean? Otherwise, I'm just going through the store going, "You got these in a 14 extra wide?" I don't buy tennis shoes in the store. There's no point whatsoever in me going to the mall looking for shoes.
No, I can't imagine.
No, they don't carry 14.
Like you'd have to go to like where NBA players go. Okay,
I order them online. Usually, I'll just find something I like and stick with it. The last pair of shoes that I had that I really liked, I found them at a Dick's Sporting Good when I was in West Virginia working, and my tennis shoes that I'd gotten. So my family bought me some of those ON shoes. They bought me 2 different pair, and I really like the weight of them. They really feel good. But the problem is, after about 4 or 5 months, like they're just shit. They're not. I don't think they're built for people my size. You know what I mean? Like I think they're built for lighter runners, and so after a few months, it's like walking on a fucking brick. You know what I mean? They just blow out on me. So I thought,
when you said lighter runners, I mean that was the end of the fucking story. You could have stopped right there. They weren't for you.
Yeah,
I can run.
I can run. They made a shoe in your size, but it was not made for you.
When do you you walk briskly? You walk fucking briskly. When do you run?
Called moving with a purpose.
Well, even I don't run anymore, motherfucker. When do you fucking run?
I run into a bipedal hominid that I've never seen before.
Oh, you motherfucker. No wonder they called it buffoonery. All right, you're on timeout, Booker.
It was earned.
Okay. Back to the finger story that we had to start recording for. We got
so I think I was in Iraq.
Lay down.
I don't remember. I think I was in Iraq then. But I'd come home for leave. Don't remember who I was working for. I don't remember what I was doing. Anyway, I came home for leave. And so I've got this honeydew list. And so I'm out in the garage with a chop saw, and a buddy of mine that I hadn't seen in forever, he's like, "Hey, man, you back in town?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm back in town." He's like, "I'm going to come by and hang out." So he just wanted to come by and hang out. So I'm cutting shoe molding, go around some flooring that I'd finished up, and he's standing there just talking my head off, and I get distracted. And so the chop saw takes the end of my finger off. So now I've got this, we call it well, I won't say what we call it because the word retarded is not appropriate. But we call it the R finger. I've been touched with a little tism. But anyway, so it takes the end of my finger off. So I'm like, motherfucker. So I wrap it up. My wife's working at the ER then. That's when she still was a RN. And so I drive down the aisle, go in the ER. And so literally like the bottom of my finger is just like gone. And the only thing you can see is the bone right there. Now the top of it was still intact. It took a little bit of the nail off. So it kind of came up like that. And so I get in there and the doctor's like just cauterizing the bleeding to get it to stop. And he's like, you know, there's nothing I can do. We got to cut the end of your finger off. So they get me a surgical consult. So Athens Orthopedic, I can't remember the surgeon. I wish I could. But anyway, he going for a surgical consult, and they're talking about just taking it off at the first knuckle, you know. And he gets in there and he looks at it and he says, I think I want to try something. I said, what we're doing? So no shit, for the next like 6 weeks, I was taking a glove, surgical gloves, and cutting the finger out of it. I would put Silvadene cream in that finger. So what I would do every night, I would have to take a sponge, surgical sponge, you know, the betadine that you would scrub with. And I would scrub, like a pre-op scrub. I would scrub with that until it started bleeding. And when it started bleeding, I would stop, rinse it off, and I would put it in that glove filled with Silvadene cream. And I would wrap it with Kerlix, and then I didn't touch it for 24 hours. 24 hours later, I would rinse it off. I would scrub it till it started to bleed, and I'd put it in a new glove with new Silvadene cream. So that was every day for 6 weeks. If you saw the pictures, I wish I had them easy access. All this granulated tissue regrew. Now it's all scarred up, but all that tissue right there has regrown. Literally every bit of this meat regrew. So what was happening, the best I can understand it in my limited scope, is that when I scrubbed it, it was generating blood flow, which was causing, you know, nutrients, which was causing blah. Because it was in the shape of the finger in the Silvadene cream, right? It was meeting that resistance. It never met oxygen that whole 6 weeks externally. It never had a chance to scab up. It was constantly pushing against that Silvadene cream, and it literally regrew the fucking tissue, man. It was the craziest shit. My wife will tell you, if you saw the picture, you'd be amazed, because in the picture, you can see the bone. And all that is now gone. It's all covered up. Now, when I get fingerprinted, I do have a problem with that finger.
Sure.
Because I'm missing the tip of it, you know, because of that. But yeah, it was actually pretty crazy, man.
Suggestion was to use that, huh?
Yeah, that was his idea. Surgery. It was totally his idea. I had no credit in that, and it worked.
Pretty wild.
Amazing how well it worked. Yeah. So yeah, that, you know, so the burn that I just experienced, you know, that stimulated that conversation about the Silvadene cream. But it was. I wish I had the video. I mean, the pictures of the finger, because we took pictures of it. I mean, you can clearly see the bone. I mean, it's totally exposed, and all that grew back. It was pretty crazy.
That's funny.
And the third nipple side effect, you've just learned to live with that, right?
Yeah, well, I'm going to get it removed. It just happens to be right next to my butthole. Now, why a nipple through there? I don't know. It's like wiping a magic marker. It's just always milk.
Was bubbing.
Like
no,
marker.
It is funny. In the mid 90s, when I was working in Pearl Harbor, we had a chief that was saying something similar for treating scarring. He was saying that a lot of surgeons were now using Silvadene cream to reduce the scarring effect, because it was helping to bridge epithelial cells across there, and it was minimizing scarring. And ever since then, and he wasn't sure if it was specific to Silvadene cream or if it was other type of ointments like betadine or other similar type ointments that were helping to bridge the epithelial cells across it. But anytime that we were doing sutures or other similar type things to minimize scarring, I would encourage my patients copiously apply, either the betadine or the Silvadene cream to minimize their scarring effects to great success.
Yeah, it's pretty
did you retain any type of fingerprint whatsoever? Did that come back, or is it strictly scar tissue?
But I wish the lighting was better. There's pieces of it, but as you can see, the disfigurement there with the
there's
scarring.
still pieces of a fingerprint where
there's still pieces of it, but it's intermingled with some scarring and a few things.
So when it regenerated the fingerprint as well.
Yes, a good portion of it, yeah.
And will it pucker like when you're in the water?
Yeah, well, the skin right there will, the tip of it around the nail bed and all will get that way as well. The damn it, the main downside that I experience is I don't have on every other finger that you have. Typically, you'll have the nail, and then there'll be a little bridge pad, and then there'll be some meat, and then it'll turn to your fingernail. I don't have that. So for me, it goes straight from the quick under, because of the disfigurement.
Yeah.
So I have a pretty significant problem with, if that nail grows any at all, it's way too exposed because there's nothing under it to kind of cushion it from that side. You know what I mean? So
sure,
it's not like a traditional finger. You know what I mean? That's the main downside to it. I even relearned how to play the guitar with it. It's a little shorter.
Well, but it's interesting because it didn't just regrow tissue; it retained all of the properties of a fingertip. Because when you pucker, when your fingers do that, that's so that you can grip things better underwater. That's why only your toes and fingers do that. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, but your nuts do it too, and you don't grip with your nuts.
Fair point.
So,
but the fact that like it regrew with those properties, though, from being completely missing, that makes that even.
Yeah, I'm not a fucking scientist, Booger. Okay.
No, I'm just saying that's pretty interesting that it regrew with those properties, because you can get, a fucking skin graft and shit like that.
Yeah. So since then, but every night since then, I've been taking a sponge and scrubbing the end of my dick and sticking it in a condom filled with Silvadene cream.
He's like a frog, just tries to grab shit off the wall.
And one nipple, because I thought that'd be. I got one nipple's this long now. I don't understand it.
It's wild.
Lactates
it's like a worm coming out of my chest.
Oh my gosh. Well, this conversation derailed. I mean, we were talking about like how he was in North Korean mini cuffs on his finger.
Yeah. I think that's the best.
That's what I've told people several times. They're like, what happened to your finger? And I said, I got captured one time. I was North Koreans. They put me in some fucking Chinese finger cuffs, and the only way to get out was I had to chew the end of one off. Like, you're an idiot. I did convince that one woman I was in a hot dog inspector, though. That's a true story, verifiable.
How does that come up organically?
Well, we were on
I took it back to episode 1.
Throwback.
What was the flight from that we used to take into BIOP?
The CASA or
no, the
Metro.
The airline.
Oh, Evergreen.
Evergreen.
Yeah.
It was an Evergreen flight, and I don't remember who I was with then, but anyway, it was an Evergreen flight in the BIOP. That was Kuwait, right? Or was that Jordan?
Jordan. Well, for me, it was Jordan.
Maybe it was Jordan. Anyway, so Doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm on this flight. And here I am, fucking big as I am, covered in fucking tattoos, going into Iraq. What the fuck you think I do? You know what I mean? Like, so what are you going into Iraq for? So I'm an inspector. You're an inspector? Yeah, I said I work for McEver's hot dog companies out of North Carolina. He said, what are you doing going into Iraq? I said, well, there was an incident of food poisoning at one of the FOBs, and they've sent me in to ascertain whether it was a storage control issue or whether it was a manufacturing glitch so we can do a recall. That is so crazy. And all my buddies are sitting there like, you motherfucker, because she's eating this shit with a spoon, dude. Like, she was totally fucking into it.
Well,
I remember one time, man, we were riding down the fucking road. We were riding down a fucking road on mission, listening to some Haji shit. You know what I mean? And they're on the fucking radio like Muhammad Jihad. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, man. What is it? I said, fucking, they're having a sale, man. They got TVs marked down 75%. And the guy's just going on and on. I'm like, God damn, they got blenders over here? Did y'all know they had blenders? I'm like doing that. And they're like, you fucking speak that shit pretty good, man. I had no fucking clue what they were saying. Not a fucking clue what they were saying. God damn, they got blenders over here. I didn't know that. Where'd they get nice at?
Hot dog inspector's plausible.
Yeah. Hey, Nick, I'm telling you, I can sling some bullshit, son.
No, my brother.
And people are afraid to challenge me because of how I look. They're like, they don't want to call me a fucking liar because they're afraid I'm going to crush them. And then I don't smile. I just stare at them, and they soak that shit up like it's gospel. I should have been.
Dude, I swear you could fucking sell ice to an Eskimo for crying.
Right? Hey, y'all know I'm Jesus.
Scare them into believing you.
Listen, I want to talk to you about this new religion I've discovered.
Discovered shit you created.
Discovered, potato, tomato.
Shit.
All I need, if you want to get in good, I just need some of your money.
Hell, I'm this close to being convinced that you're the one that was in the Bigfoot freaking get up and walking around.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
Oh,
there was always a thing. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the 90s, there was a book written called How to Be a Contract Killer. And I think it was a practical guide to, I can't remember the entire title. Got a lot of press. And it was on some of that underground shit. Like the Alchemist Cookbook and that kind of shit.
Wasn't it even being sold in like the back of Soldier of Fortune or some shit like that?
May have been. So, but the interesting thing was it was written by a woman. Most people didn't know that. It was a pen name. But anyway, one of the tips that was in this book was wear shoes.
I'm looking at Booger's face, and right now I'm right there with him.
It was wear shoes that are 2 sizes too big, and then put some kind of weight on your body. So instead of them looking for a 5'7" guy that wears a 6.5 and weighs 140 pounds, you know what I mean? Now they're looking for somebody who's probably 6'2", wearing a size 12 and weighs 200 pounds. That was one of the theories.
But she just put Tradecraft secrets
everywhere
in
I've
there
been,
and basically
everywhere I've been, they're looking for Shaquille O'Neal. It's like I told somebody I'm gonna start robbing banks. They're like, you're gonna stand out. I'm like, I'll wear a mask. They're like, no, dude, you're gonna stand out.
Problem is, John, is you actually do wear size 14. You're already fucked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's the joke. The only people they're gonna be like, that damn Shaq did this.
Shaq, I thought he was doing good.
When I grew the beard out this time, because I had to go to you forever. When I grew the beard out this time, people would come up to me in the grocery store and they'd be like, dang, man, I hadn't seen you in a while. Beard looks great. And I was like, how'd you know it was me? I got a beard. How did you know it was me? You know what I mean? It's pretty funny. It was at the time. I thought it was funny. Most people didn't.
They looked at you.
You said you used to rock climb though, right?
When I was young. when I was really young.
So you're used to fitting your feet into like shoes that are 2 sizes too small, right?
Yeah, well, back when I was still climbing, though, man, I was in my late teens and stuff, early 20s. My feet weren't that big. Like I think I was wearing 12s and 13s.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Follow my logic now. See, this is where you try to squeeze them big monstrosities into a size 11, and see, that's where you get your,
Yeah. Well, and when I was climbing, I was way outside of the specs, because I think the UIAA, the United International Alpine Association, is the governing body over the certification of mountaineering and alpine gear, and everything gets a rating. It basically gets a rating of how, so obviously the thicker a rope is, the more dynamic properties it has, the better, elasticity, the more it works. But everything that was tested, when you were talking about a 10.5 or an 11 millimeter rope, all that stuff was tested with dummies at 188 pounds. So even when I was climbing, I was still like 30, 40 pounds overweight for their spec. You know what I mean? Eventually I just got to where it was just not going to continue,
impractical.
Yeah.
Pretty impractical.
So what you're saying is I never had a chance ever since I became an adult.
No.
Okay.
Well, I tried to get on a flight crew back in the States doing flight medicine.
Oh yeah.
And because I'm still licensed as a paramedic. And so I fill out the applications and stuff and then get the interview, and they're like, they're trying to be real nice. They're like, you got to be 205 with your helmet on. I'm like, okay, I can see this would be a problem.
Yeah.
100-pound of fuel. I don't know how many gallons that is, but it's at least another 10 miles, I would expect.
Yeah. Yeah. That's kind of important.
When I was in North Dakota, I was up there on the pipeline when we were doing the protest up there with Tiger Swan and all those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, started.
Wait, Tiger Swan is still a thing?
Yeah, they were up there.
Oh shit! I thought they disbanded like way long ago in Iraq.
I did too.
No, they were there.
Okay.
I never associated with those savages personally.
Different ownership, or still the same from those days?
I don't know the answer to that one, buddy. All I know is some of the key players, and I won't mention them here. We'll move on from that. But anyway,
probably the same then.
But anyway, we were up there with some other unmentionables, bunch of savages, and I'm not talking about the fucking Indians. I'm talking about us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was out in the field one day and I get a radio call and they're like, "Hey Doc, where you at?" I'm like, "I'm over here. Head toward the airport. We need you. We're gonna do an AVO mission." Roger. So we get going back, and I'm probably 5-10 minutes up the road now. They call back. This time they call me on the cell phone. So how much you weigh? It's about 290. He said, "All right, stand down. We're getting somebody else."
Somebody there was like, "You called who?"
Yeah.
Well,
it was really interesting because I went up there right after my DBA was ended. Right after I'd gotten all my surgeries done and everything, I started looking for some work. I was bored. I had plenty of money, and at the time, but I was bored, and I needed to get back to doing something. And Brian called me. Brian said, "Hey, we're doing this thing up here. It's with a pipeline, yada, yada, yada." All right. I fly up there. So anyway, it started out with a company called RGT, RTG, some shit out of Texas. I don't know. Wasn't much to it. And Brian and Nate were working for them. And that's where me and Nate had our last little bit. So it started out, it started out real small. There weren't that many of us there. Old bat guys and a bunch of group guys and a few SEALs and stuff, and we're all up there just working. We're not even there. We're just, the cops are there, the military's there. We're just in the back, and our basic orders were just, if it spills over onto the work site, get the workers out. Our mandate had nothing to do with the protesters, had nothing to do with the equipment. If they want to shut down work, whatever, nothing to do with us. Our job was make sure that they didn't fuck with the workers. End of story. Y'all want to burn the equipment, you want to tear shit up, knock yourselves out. Don't give a fuck. Leave that dude alone. He's just doing a job. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And that's what we were there for. But we got painted in a very negative light. They put in the newspapers and shit that they brought up all these mercenaries, and I don't know if the actual our names. I don't know. I was on the fucking internet. I was in newspapers and all this shit. So,
well, they did that same shit to us up in upstate New York. Remember that,
yeah.
John?
Yeah. So the day that right not long after I got there, there was just, I mean, it was very small, this camp. And they had this camp on. So the whole premise of this thing is that they didn't go through the res and pay them. Now they went through another tribe up there called the TAT, the three affiliated tribes. They paid them. We had a really good relationship with them. We went through there. We did everything. Had no issues really. Not any more so than any other landowner. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then when it got down there to that place, right, they rerouted and it went through the ranch that this cat owned. The ranch this guy owned was part of the land that was given to this tribe in a treaty back in the 1800s. The treaty said, if you guys will stay here and if you guys will stop raiding caravans and shit, you can have this land. But they didn't. They didn't stop. They kept hitting them. They kept doing all the shit. So the government, the U.S. government in the 1860s, I think it was, somewhere in there, I don't know the fucking dates, they took the land back. Now the land 100 years later, 150 years later, this guy and his family owns the land. The gas company, because of so much trouble, the gas company bought his whole fucking ranch. He just left. Don't know whatever happened with that, but anyway,
that had to be a nice little payday right there.
They were protesting. Yeah, it is. They were protesting, putting the pipeline down. Then it became no longer about money, because there's several different ways that a pipeline will do. They have a going rate. It's just a standard rate that everybody makes. The price of your land is X amount of, they call it a rod. I forget the length, but it's just a determinate amount of length. And you get paid per rod. If you've got a mile of property, you make more money than a guy that's got 100 yards of property. But the ratio is still the same because it's based on that rod. This guy might put 3 rods. That guy might have 2,000 rods. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
But it's based on that rod length.
Right.
But that price is set. Now there's some other things you can negotiate with. I'd like you to repave my driveway when you get done. I'd like you to, plant this specific type of grass. I want gates that are made out of metal instead of wood. There's a lot of things you can negotiate on, but the rod length is a standard price that's set.
Right.
You can that's like a monthly deal, or is it a lump sum up front?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't deal with that portion of it. But what I do know is that if you don't want to take that rod length, they can exercise eminent domain. Eminent domain means that you still get paid at that going rate that everybody else got, but you don't get to say no. You have to take it. Doesn't mean that they take your land. It means that 5 feet below the surface, there'll be a pipeline buried there. Now, these guys go right back behind us and farm that land. They plant crops on that land. They do all that things on that land. And the thing about it is, traditionally now, people would always say, well, pipeline. But here's the reality. Until we stop the dependence on fossil fuels, that oil is going to come out of the ground and it's going to go somewhere. It's going to go into your fuel tank. The only question is it traveling underground, or is it on a tanker behind a big rig going down the highway?
Right.
Or is it on a train car? Because that's the three ways it moves. It's going to get to a port. It's going to get from a port to a pump. It's going to, you know what I mean? You're not, if you stop that pipeline, that oil's still going to get where it needs to get. It's just going to be in a tractor trailer.
Right. And will it be efficient, and what will
it won't be nearly as efficient. It won't be nearly as safe. And that's the thing. Yeah, you do have accidents with pipelines, and when they are accidents, they're pretty significant, but they're usually blown way out of proportion.
Sure,
I'm not saying they're not impactful. That's not what I mean. I'm not trying to diminish some of the things that have happened.
Sure. But what I'm saying is like those are considerations,
very rare.
And these are the things that people try to blow out of proportion. But these are the discussions that need to be had. And like you said, I mean, these are, you look at track records, and this is why it's so frustrating when people who are talking out of their ass and don't know what these track records are. It's like, you're going to highlight obviously the worst because you're trying to paint the negative. But it's like, well, what's the reality? What's the alternative? You're not.
Yeah, statistically, pipelines are extremely safe for the amount of volume that runs through them. And compared to any other mode of transportation, they're extremely safe.
Right.
But you know, the same thing happened with nuclear power. Nuclear power is probably the
to illustrate what you're saying,
possibly do, but they have that meltdown, and everybody's like, we can't do that shit again. So now we accept the other thing, that the cumulative total of that is so much worse. You know what I mean? It's strange when people don't look at the data.
Right. And going back to what you were talking about, when, you talk about the eminent domain, then they put the pipeline underground. It's like, okay, well, the theory then would be, okay, well, then I could put crops or whatever the fuck I want there. It's like, yes, but if something happens, now they got to dig up all that shit so they can work on the pipeline if something's amiss there, or they can't troubleshoot it because they can't readily see it. I mean, sure, they can send bots through the pipeline to troubleshoot it from the inside, kind of stuff, but it sounds like it's a little bit easier to troubleshoot when you can visibly see it when it's above ground. Am I correct on that?
And it's not just visibly. So when a pipeline is constructed, the safety mechanisms that are in place are extremely rigid. Just to be able to weld on that pipeline, you have to pass a test that involves radiography. It involves x-raying your welds. It involves strength and break tests. It involves a lot of different things, and it's extremely complicated on some of these. I've seen them test 500 welders to get 10. So I mean, it's not like if you know how to weld, you just walk up and do a pipeline. It is, pipeline welders are a whole nother breed. Right. I mean that sincerely. I mean, they're some of the best people up there in the world. A lot of arrogant motherfuckers in that group, but they're some of the best skills that there are, and they make good money for it.
Right.
Most of those cats, between their truck pay and everything else, they're taking home $5,000 a week out there on the road. Now you got to be gone to get it.
Right.
But you got to go to where the work is.
Yeah. So when we build those pipelines, there's a lot of stringent safety tests that are involved in that, a lot of government oversight, and all that stuff is inspected over and over and over again. So one of the things I do now is an inspector for a pipeline company. So the way it works is a gas company A, they decide, okay, well, we've got some oil over here, we need to get it to the refinery. So we need this pipeline transported from here to the refinery, and it's going to be 500 miles long. It's going to be 12 inches wide or 12 inches in diameter, whatever. Well, then it gets bid out, much in the same way what we used to do overseas gets bid out. A project goes out. Hey, we've got 1,000 miles. It's everyone's different because the topography is different, the weather's different, the time frame of the work is different. When I was in North Dakota doing that pipeline, which I wasn't inspecting then, I was still doing security, but they would have to build out of 2x4s or 2x2s and plastic. They would build shelters along that pipeline and put heaters in it because, it's 25, 30 below outside and the wind's blowing. You can't weld
Right.
like that. You can't paint like that. You know what I mean? You can't do that stuff in the cold. You can't, you know what I mean? So
Right, because it messes with
all
the
those things affect the price is what I was trying to get to. So it's really hard to say that, 5 miles of pipe is not 5 miles of pipe. If you're doing it in the swamp and you got, you know what I mean? It's different things. So,
Sure.
but it goes out to bid, and then whoever wins that bid, then they bring in their people to start building it. I
right.
don't work for those people. The inspection company works for the gas company. They're an independent third party
Mm.
that is contracted to the gas company to oversee the construction from the contractor.
Mm.
So it's an attempt to try to remove dependence, I guess you would say, in that capacity.
Right.
Now, that doesn't mean that people don't cheat.
Sure.
People cheat all the time. You can bribe somebody, you can buy them dinner, you can do all kind of things. I've had contractors offer to put fuel in my truck every day. I've had them offer to take me to dinner, to do this, to do that. I don't do that. I don't eat dinner with them. I don't take favors. I don't do nothing. I had a guy.
Me, if they're doing that, that's almost like raising the red flag of, okay, what have you fucked up here?
Well, I had one not too long ago. I won't say any more than that, but not too long ago, I had a guy that I said, I got to stop and get some fuel when we go to this next job. I'll meet y'all there. And the crew was like, all right. He said, one of the crew guys was like, why don't you just let us fill you up? I was like, I can't do that. You know what I mean? And he was like, well, the other guys would. Now, that other crew was all fired. That's why I was there. It was to clean up, to
Right.
some mess that was occurring on. But yeah, I mean, the potential's there. Potential's there.
Oh,
Sure.
for sure.
I'm not going to sell my soul for a $50 tank of fuel, $70 tank of fuel. You know what I mean?
Oh shit, where are you filling up that cheap?
Tank of fuel. My 450 would hold $350, $400 worth of fuel when it was really high up in Pennsylvania. I might have sold out for that.
Well,
Yeah.
But
I mean, like we said before, everybody has a price, but the question is,
yeah,
what's the trade-off? And
the point of that is, every weld on that pipeline is X-rayed.
Yeah.
By an independent company that gets audited by the federal government in multiple layers. They look at every X-ray film. The government also looks at those films.
Right.
Government does. I mean, there's so much. Now, shit happens.
Sure.
Shit happens sometimes.
I mean, just look at the train situation right now under Pothole Pete.
But there are so many safety measures in place, and pipelines are segregated, and they have safety features built in. So, an underground pipeline, if it ruptures, it won't just keep pumping fuel.
Yeah.
Right.
There's safety measures in place to isolate,
right?
To block that segment out. Now, I can't tell you how long that segment is. It depends on a lot of different variables.
Right.
And that could be a lot of fuel in the ground. But the point is it's just not an infinite supply. You know what I mean? It's going to stop. And, and they're monitored 24 hours a day. There's just a lot that goes into these things. Now, 1950s pipelines, totally different ballgame.
Right.
Our science has evolved since then. You know what I mean?
Sure. That's like trying to talk about another Chernobyl happening. It's like, well, you're not going to have another Chernobyl happening because we already have updated how we would manufacture a new nuclear power plant if we built one today.
The technology's been updated, but I think people would be surprised to learn how much of our infrastructure still is 1950s.
Oh, absolutely. No, you're 100% right there. But what I'm saying is, like, even some of the infrastructure, like say the nuclear power plant out in California, even some of that it has had its safety measures updated since its building. Now, America. This is the thing that pisses me off when everybody keeps shitting on America. Like, we need to lead the way. We already lead the way in almost everything, from like ending slavery. Like, maybe we didn't beat Britain, but we beat everybody fucking else. Okay. When they talk about stopping pollution and all this other bullshit, we've led the way every step of the way on every fucking important issue. and they keep talking about us. I'm like, we lead the fucking way. Are you kidding me? You know, we need to be holding, you know, places like India and China to account. You know, give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
You know, we're not the problem. We're the leaders in this. So quit shitting on us and quit trying to compare us to fucking Europe when they can't even fucking agree. Like, we're leading the money even on the money that we, you know, problems in their fucking backyards.
Who let the
dogs out? Did you just say who let the dogs out?
Yeah, Booger's dog's barking.
Yeah. She got a little crazy.
You going to continue with a story, Squirrel?
You know, only you, Looney, only you.
Hey, his dog's barking. I said, who let the dogs out? You just shit the bed on the story. I was into that. Come on, finish it.
You know, the 90s called and they want their fucking song back, John.
Was that the 90s?
Yeah, no. It was 90s. It was 90s. Yeah.
God damn, we're getting old.
I know we're fucking getting old. Look, there's gray in all of our fucking beers, and even
well, remember that video I sent you the other day of that kid from fucking Talladega Nights with a full beard now?
I know. What the
shit,
fuck, man?
Yeah.
That little rascally redheaded one.
That makes you feel like a fucking asshole, don't
it? Right. Right.
Oh man, but that's how I got into this. You know, is that I went up there and did that thing for Brian, and you know, not throwing nobody under no bus or nothing, but it could have been. So the night that I'd been this cat flew into town. He was the VP of this company, big company. He was a nice guy, man, but all these cats were like running around white gloving him. You know what I mean? And
right.
You know me. They call me up. They're like, "Hey, you're gonna PPO this guy?" And I'm like, "Roger." So I go up there and meet him. He's like, "Hey, I'm so and so."
For all the people out there that are not in the security field, that's personal protective officer.
Okay.
Yeah, you give everybody the white glove treatment, though.
Yeah, right. Just you, baby.
Oh,
this glove treatment. That's the Looney white glove.
But anyway,
I always feel two hands on my shoulders.
So like the first day I meet this guy, right? We're in this fucking brief at the talk. They come out there and they start passing out body armor. Well, what the fuck is this? Well, just in case. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me, dude? So I'm standing there next to this cat and I'm holding this shit and I throw it on the floor and I look at Nate and him. I said, I ain't wearing that fucking shit, you goddamn idiot. And so the client looks at them and he says, well, if he ain't wearing it, I ain't fucking wearing it, and throws it back at him. So we go out, right? And we do this move. So it's me, one of my buddies, SEAL OB, and a couple of other cats. So I put an OP up on one of the ridge. And so we're going up through there, and I don't remember who was driving, OB, I don't know. Anyway, so we got this cat in this buggy, right? We're in a side-by-sides. And we get out there, and they call back up, and they're like, hey, Doc, we got some cats over the ridge right here. You may want to stop right there and go on foot. Roger. So we kill the noise. We start walking up through there to get a grip, to get a look at this shit. And so I tell this guy, I'm like, listen, if anything kicks off, I want you to run back to that buggy, turn it around and go up to the top of the next ridge and wait right there. Me and my guys will be there in a minute. And I'm being dead serious, you know, and he's like, okay, well, what are y'all going to do? I said, oh, we're going to fuck these guys up.
We're going to make sure they're not repeat offenders.
Yeah. Oh, we're going to have some fun. I said, we're going to fuck these guys up. He just thought it was the craziest shit. So we really hit it off because I was just treating him like one of us, like another fucking dude, because that's what he was. But everybody else was like wanting to hold his pinky and like, excuse me, sir, would you like a cup of tea? You know, all this fucking dainty shit. And he's just a fucking dude. This motherfucker, he's still a good friend of mine. He goes bear hunting and sends me pics of him killing grizzly bears and shit. You know what I mean? He's more of a fucking man than half of those cunts at that time.
I was gonna say, I mean, he's in the oil business, so
he's a fucking dude. dude. I mean, he's just a fucking dude. He went a different route, but he's still a fucking dude.
Shirt
You know what I mean?
he's probably more blue collar than a lot of dudes that claim to
I
be.
might use a tad more profanity than he does, but anyway,
just a smidge.
the next time he comes into town, I'm out in the field, and Brian and Nate and them, they're like, "All right, you're gonna go with this guy," and he's like, "What happened to the other guy?" So what's his name? I don't know. The guy you had me with last time, big fucker. And they're like, "Oh, Looney." He's like, well, he's out in the field doing something. You'll have to go with this guy. And he's like, "I ain't going with this guy. I want him." No, what? He's like, "I'm not going out unless he goes and takes me out. I feel comfortable." So they call me out in the field and they're like, "Hey, this cat wants you to take him out." And I'm like, "All right." So I go in, run the shop. Didn't find out about that shit till later on down the road. You would think that the client liking me would be a benefit to the company. You would think that the organization would embrace that. Right. They didn't. They were fucking pissed. They were jealous as shit.
Right. Well, there's the key word right there.
And if you're listening, Nate, you're a fucking little cunt, and I'm gonna take your teeth. Nate Eggleston has this fucking brief where he's standing in the brief and he's like saying some shit, and he's like, "Now listen, I don't want y'all to start rubbing up against the clients, like, and don't act like John Looney or some shit like that." In the brief, I'm on vacation. I'm not there. This is an open fucking brief, and he's saying this shit. Man, I shit the fucking bed. So it rocks on there a couple more weeks, a month or so. I don't know. The way the guard card shit worked in North Dakota was you submit your application. There was one woman that did it because there wasn't that many people getting our guard cards in North Dakota. And so applications would sit on her desk, right? All of a sudden, we all get there. Now, all of a sudden, she's got hundreds of these goddamn applications. So they would come in there and they'd put a stack down and she'd start working through them. And then somebody else would put a stack on there and then she'd start working. And it just, so if you happened to be in the wrong spot, you were fucked. So there was a group of us that hadn't got our cards. Everybody knew it. Everybody knew what was going on. Well, a couple of the guys in management that you and I both know were doing some pretty stupid fucking shit and got them all pissed off. So they start having this fucking bitch session, and they decide they're gonna, to appease the client, they're gonna send home everybody that didn't have a guard card to stand by. Now, it just so happened that that drilling rig was on the west side of that river, and to protect it, we had spent the last few days, me and my crew, because we didn't have guard cards, we were on standby. We'd spent the last few days building a fucking fob around it. We had like 3 layers of HESCOs, the big ones, and then gradually getting smaller. We had 2 runs of fucking C-wire on the top. We had C-wire on every step. We had C-wire laid out. I mean, we built a goddamn impenetrable fucking fortress. We had everything layered, staggered. So it was fucking locked down tight. Well, the day we get done with it, they call a meeting. We go into this fucking meeting in the hotel room, and our friend is standing at the head, gives this speech about how we all got to go home. Everybody that doesn't have a guard card's going home. Nothing we could do. Everybody in the room knew what the fuck was going on. They knew why it was going on. They knew who had done it. So anyway, I said something like, "You're not going home, and you don't have a card. And your little girlfriend there don't have a card, and neither does he. Are they going home too?" "Well, no, we're keeping them to do this and do that." So he's protecting his little fuck buddies. Pissed me off because we were the ones doing the work. So I shit the fucking bed, and I lost my shit. I burned the room to the ground, and I told them both plain as day, if you got any fucking thing to say it now, because if you don't and I hear about it, I said, I'm gonna come back and fucking hurt you. Oh man, everything's good. So I left to the applause of most of my guys. And then later on I heard something.
No.
So I got to keep my word to one of them. But anyway, so I called that guy out of Texas, and I said, "Hey man, I'm heading home. I don't need the money. I don't need the shit. I'm done with it." He said, come to work for me. So what the fuck am I going to do for you? I don't know shit about a pipeline. He said, don't worry about that. Just be at the office. So that's how I got in the pipeline game.
Nice.
But yeah, they anyway.
I got offered a couple of gigs to go up there, but I had just kind of gotten situated with a job, you know, in the States. So it was kind of like, I don't want to, if I give this up and I go into that, how long is it going to last? I didn't think there was going to be any longevity with it.
It probably would have been a little better if honestly, if they hadn't taken a fucking Ferrari and treated it like a Pinto, it probably would have lasted longer. But they fucked it so bad.
Yeah.
They just ran it straight in the fucking ground. I mean, you got the people that are in charge pulling into the hotel at 4 a.m., pouring out of the fucking vehicles, puking in the damn. I mean, it was just run like a fucking high school reunion. It was just ridiculous. Yeah. Well, you know, it was all about protect your fucking buddy, not about doing what was right. And the shit that they were doing, they were instigating shit. Stupid fucking Nate's goddamn ass coming up with his own fucking faggoty ass call sign, sneaking around down there trying to steal the flag that they had planted on the land down there, the Indians. Comes back, brings it back as a trophy. What do you think they're going to
do? Yeah, that's
trying to de-escalate shit. And that's what I told the guy in Texas one time. I said, man, y'all should have never brought us up here. So why not? We don't mitigate shit. We don't diffuse shit. We weren't trained to diffuse anything. We were trained to fucking kill it, destroy it, neutralize it, make it go away, and get off the fucking X. We're not cops. Cops stand there and talk people down, or they should. You know what I mean? We aren't trained, or at least I wasn't trained in, you know, the de-escalation and back away and find a safe space and let's hug it out. You know what I mean?
Probably had a lot of dudes that were probably fresh back from Iraq or Afghanistan.
That's what I'm saying, man. It was volatile.
And so they're still really amped up, and then they're just fucking bored because they're not getting the adrenaline rush.
Yeah, like,
that's a powder keg.
It caused a lot of problems.
I figured if I got into that, it was going to lead to another contract, and it was just going to take me right back overseas. And I just knew mentally it wasn't where I was at or should be at. I wanted to go and do it, but mentally, I think I'd have broken down even worse than I did.
That whole thing took place after the upstate New York thing, right? I'm pretty sure of it.
I honestly can't remember, Dale.
But the funny part about the funny part about that was so the upstate New York thing. I remember getting the call for that. I remember hearing about it this summer before I went, because I remember Busby was up there and a few other guys, and I opted not to go because I was trying to do personal training stuff and I was doing some other security related stuff here in Vegas, and it was starting to kind of fall apart. And then right around in the fall, I get a call from one of our boys. He's like, "Hey man, you know, we want to come up here and do this thing up in upstate New York." And I said, is it okay if I talk with my wife about it? He goes, I need to know in 4 hours or I'm moving on to the next guy. And I said, cool. Let me just talk to the wife. And he goes, okay. Talk to the wife. She's cool with it. Go up there to New York. I'm up there for probably about 4 days. And I see Jeremy Landry's there and he's running admin. Don't have much of a problem. I mean, he and I have had our kerfuffles in the past, but, you know, we kind of, for the most part, worked it out. But I still think Jeremy Landry's a douchebag. But again, I've learned to deal with it diplomatically. So I'm up there and fucking Brian Masterfini somehow finds out I'm up there. And he's like, he calls me up and he's like, bro, why the fuck aren't you getting me a job up there in New York? I'm like, well, you do know who's up here. And he goes, who? And I said, Landry. And he goes, so? And I said, well, you do know he is by far not your biggest fan. And he goes, dude, you need to be getting me a job up there. I said, look, he is so much not a fan of yours that if I even mention your name, I'm going home.
Sure.
And he's like, bro. And I said, look, Brian, You have made your bed with Landry, okay? There's people you have pissed off in this world that I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do for you. I mean, I would absolutely hook you up if I could, but I already know mentioning your name is persona non grata around here, bro. And that's just how it is. So you want to fucking come up here, you call up Landry and ask for a job. But I am not mentioning your name to him. That's just it. Sorry, bro. You're on your own with this one. There's nothing I can do. And he got so pissed off at me. I swear to God, that motherfucker is not once. And I mean, this motherfucker sees me on Signal. He sees me on Facebook. He has never once ever fucking talked to me since. And I'm just like, look, dude, you have pissed off people in this fucking life. And I mean, I know I have too. I mean, don't get me wrong.
He's still mad at you over that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Fucking whatever.
He is that fucking petty. And I mean, I have gone to bat for him so many fucking times for people. I mean, I've told that motherfucker myself. I said, look, dude, you're the last person who should be in charge of shit. Yeah, that is like by far your Achilles heel. You suck at leadership. I said, but you know your shit in security. You know how to be a security operator. I said, but when it comes to leadership, dude, I wanted to punch you right in your fucking mouth. Like every time you seek out leadership, I wanted to punch you in your fucking mouth, and I'm your bro. Like I have your back every step of the way. But you open your mouth in leadership positions and you say the dumbest fucking shit ever. And
well, it's just decisions are just whatever. It is what it is.
Yeah. You know, a lot of that's just some people think they have to act differently when they're in leadership positions, which shows you that they shouldn't be in the leadership position because you should be acting like that all the time.
Well,
I had a guy in Global there at the end when I was running out of Kabul. And they put this guy on my team. His name was Rolo Vargoga or some shit. He was some fucking Bosnian or some fucking somebody. I can't remember. And he'd written a book on private security as like an encyclopedia of private security or some fucking shit. I don't know. He thought he was God's gift private security, and he wasn't. He was a fucking moron. I mean, he knew his shit, but he was spastic as fuck. I had this other cat. He was the team leader when I got to Kabul. And that Rolo guy and me never hit it off. He was a little bitty fucking, I don't know, but he was just always a little backstabby kind of shit show guy, you know?
Yeah.
And so we had a cat on our team, Martin, I can't think of his name, Brit guy. I liked him. I thought he was a great guy. I really did. And he was the TL. He had an ND and got sent home. He was trying to come back, and I was actually trying to get him back because it was a stupid fucking ND. I can't even remember what it was now, but I mean it was bad. But I can't remember what the fuck happened. I don't even remember what happened now. Something happened, and I know that sounds bad that I wanted him back, but something happened that made it okay. And I can't remember the story. I just remember the bulk of it. So just assume that whatever it was wasn't that bad.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between, you know, an ND into a clearing barrel and an ND.
I want to say that's what it was. I want to say it was a clearing barrel. I want to say it was a clearing barrel. I want to say it was a fucking hot round in the clearing barrel. And I can't remember, but I just don't remember the details. I don't want to get into that. But the point is Martin was trying to come back, and I was actively working to get him back because I liked the guy. He was fucking hilarious. He was good on the ground. He knew his shit. They weren't bringing him back because of that. And they were fighting it. And so I hadn't talked to him in a little bit. All of a sudden, one day I get a message on something. I don't remember now. He's like, why are you trying to keep me off your team? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? I've been busting my ass to try and get you back. Like, I've been working on that little fucking Rolo little bastard had been running around telling him that I was the one trying to keep him off the team and all this fucking shit because he was just that little scumbag fucking jealous little motherfucker. But because he knew about everything security and because I was who I was, you know what I mean? Like he was one of the gods in security. He was just
in his own mind.
fucking. Oh man, I hated that shit. Like I used to tell people, dude, I didn't go to boot camp. I don't know how to make my fucking bed. I don't know how to polish my boots, but I know how to walk a fucking diamond, and I know how to get off a fucking X.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway,
Well,
I think I am done with all my storytelling. I believe I monopolized that entire episode, but I thank you two for joining in and listening. Good to have you on my show tonight.
No, some of that stuff on the oil stuff is pretty educational. I think some of our 3 listeners out there will appreciate.
Well, and I've walked the walk. You know what I mean? I've stood out there and watched it being inspected. I've been a part of it, man. And I think if people were more educated, they would be a little less
critical.
I mean,
what is that thing that you call it when it's so obvious, but you say it anyway? You know what I mean? But it's almost ridiculous, like, because I just literally said if they were more educated, they would be less ignorant. But I mean, it's
oxymoron.
It's true. You're a moron.
Well, I mean, I confirmed one of my hypotheses today, which was
it will fit up there. Well, I was wondering too. I was really wondering. It was a big ass fruit, but I'm glad it worked.
The more rod length you have, the more you're going to get paid. I learned that.
That is a fact. That is a fact.
I've thought it for years, and I was like, this is just why I'm not making it.
And diced onions has nothing to do with what you throw across the floor.
Yeah, well, So you mentioned getting paid in a rod length. Hypothetically, if somebody had like a half a rod, what would they be looking at payday wise?
They're just always remember that's 6 inches.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing on the oil pipeline business. You know what I mean? You always want to stretch that number.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what can I get for a tank of gas?